Hi, welcome to this episode where we're going to talk about what is our center. And if we don't know what our center is, how to find our center, how to cultivate and create a center, and why this is so important at this time and will be actually for the next couple of years is because it's really important that we're coming into our own sovereignty, which means that we're really able to kind of know what is our own path and what are we really being called to do, what is our own personal alignment, and noticing when we're taken out of that. So when we're being hijacked out of that, and that can be just, there's so many changes with the influx of the higher frequencies coming in, and that can unground us. That can wreak a lot of havoc on us in a lot of ways, energetically too. And then there's just a lot, a lot of power struggles happening. That can be happening in our own world. It could be happening in our own lives, and it can be definitely happening on the greater world stage. So it's really important that we have a sense of our own personal center. And there's a couple ways that we can navigate through this or approach this. So the first one is really just knowing what our own general sense of center is. And that can be a couple things. It can be knowing what our own personal values are, knowing what our own personal principles are. And then really when we know that, we can hold that note, and we can really know when there's something that's not feeling right for us. Again, not with any sense of judgment. And this is the other thing, is it's important that we're, entering out of this polarity consciousness and coming out of judgment as a result. And that's not easy to do because we're learning how to figure out, like, does this resonate with me? Is this, that discerning, refining that discerning, and doing so without placing a judgment. And we're just really learning how to navigate through that and learn how to do that without judgment. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is just really, again, knowing, does this actually feel aligned with me? And the other tricky thing, I guess, with this is that we, in that, can establish a sense of boundaries, and we now want to do that without closing our heart. So this is like, kind of a new learning curve in a sense for us, energetically, psychologically, consciously, from a consciousness perspective, spiritual perspective, all of it. So we want to really know, first and foremost, what is our own center. And if you don't know, or if this resonates, to kind of just go back over and really ask yourself who I am now and what the consciousness is that I'm at now. Do I still have the same values and the same principles? What is important to me? What are my non-negotiables? What is something that that I know that I can feel flexible with, open-minded about, yet still know, is this still, though, in alignment for me personally at this time? So that's kind of like the general view of it. And invitation is, even if you know, it's, it might be just a powerful thing to write it down at this time, because again, just over the next couple years, there's just going to be a lot of potential pulls in different directions of, what is, because we're also redefining power. And so in that redefinition of power, we're creating this new world, and we're creating, ourselves evolving into this whole new essence and this whole new sense of being, and humanity as a whole is evolving. And we're doing that. So what do we want our foundation to be? Coming from this heart-centered, empowered place, where soul power, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us now? And sometimes writing that out, or even creating it like a declaration, can be extremely powerful. And it just helps to anchor it. We're sending out that declaration or that intention to the universe as well. But sometimes that just anchors it in a little bit more within ourselves, so that we definitively know kind of what is our groundedness, and what is our anchor point, what is our center point. Still being in the, open in the heart, and still being open and fluid, allowing, others to be in their own process, allowing things to unfold. We don't have control over everything, obviously. So just, again, being able to come back into our own personal center. So that's kind of like the general essence of knowing what our center is. And I'm leaving it kind of, I guess, a bit vague, purposely, because we want to, for ourselves, be able to go within ourselves and be able to know what this means for ourselves, not continuously waiting for something outside of us to help us to figure that out or make these decisions for us. Like, this is us really stepping into our sovereignty and saying, this is me and my sovereignty. And it's a starting point. It doesn't mean in 6 months or in a year you might change it. It might feel different in that time. I mean, the energies are going to be different. The world's going to be different. We will be different. We're always continuously growing. But it's a starting point, and it's, most importantly, it gets us aware, and it gets us, gives us something to keep coming back to. Like, if we don't have something that we're already kind of aware of, we will be pulled so quickly from outer opinions, outer energies, other power struggles. So again, it's helpful because it's also cultivating us to be able to stay in awareness, so we have a sense of, okay, I'm not grounded right now, I'm getting pulled out, I'm not clear on this. So if I'm not clear, maybe I need to kind of come back in and take some time to self-care or to get grounded or come back into my center. But if we don't know what our center is, we kind of have nothing to come back to. That's the invitation. And the other way to approach this is you can also ask, what is my center through a specific time or stage or change in our lives? Sometimes, our general center. So for me, as an example, my general center that I've really cultivated, and like, this isn't something that I just, kind of came to. I feel like we have certain things that we naturally and individually kind of have our own kind of gifts in, or we all come in with different things. And so it's invitation is when you're looking at your first essence of center, that's how you do want to approach it. What can I actually already kind of feel in center with, in alignment with? So for me, as an example, that's peace and love. I can feel love. I can feel peace. It's very palpable and very tangible for me. Somebody else might feel like that doesn't resonate with me and I can't feel that at all. But I can feel harmony, or I can feel tranquility, or I can feel excitement. So again, it's really about, number one, what can I naturally or more easily feel? And then starting to really cultivate that. And then starting to, again, know what is the essence of me? What is my own personal values, again, and areas that I know that I'm very clear on that don't feel good for me if I wander from that. And also, again, discerning between, am I in fear, operating from fear, or am I actually really just anchored and connected and clear on my center? And this is the other thing. We really want to come into our sovereignty with clarity. Clarity is empowerment. So again, the more aware we become, know where our center point is going to be much easier for us to maintain that sense of coming back into that very quickly and clearly. Okay, so the other way that we can approach this is navigating through a specific time. The other thing, and from that perspective, we may want to ask, what's my rudder here? So think of the analogy of a sailboat on the ocean. We have this vast ocean, and there's all these other things, all these other variables, winds, waves, other boats, bigger boats, smaller boats. Like, we don't have control necessarily of all these other variables, but we have control over our own sailboat. Now, what if there's no wind? So, we don't have a rudder. Say we don't have a rudder and we don't have any sails up. Then, these winds come up or these winds go calm. Are we just being kind of thrown from, these waves in the wind? Are we getting crashed into from these other boats? Or are we actually able to navigate around, and are we able to actually be clear on where we want to go? And that's part of the center. Part of the center is, what's my rudder here? So sometimes we might ask ourselves, what's my rudder through life in general? Or what's my rudder right now through going through this period of my life, or going through this year, or going through this time? What's my rudder through this? So again, a rudder could be an essence, or it could be a quality. Like, my rudder here is clarity. So what do I need to do to find clarity? What do I need to do to maintain clarity? Or my rudder could be peace. Again, so this is kind of, what does that mean for you in your own way and in your own language and whatever, however you filter things and respond to things. So again, it's you still being in the flow of life. You're still being in the flow of things that you don't have control over. Yet we have this strong sense of a rudder, meaning whatever's coming up, I have something that I can come back to. So I'll give you an example of how to cultivate this. So say you want to cultivate peace, and you want peace to be your rudder, which means that's going to be your center point. You're going to know that you're getting ungrounded, or you're getting a little bit hijacked, or you're needing to self-care a little bit more because you're having a really hard time feeling this center point or coming back to this center point. And so to cultivate this, and you can do this again with a quality that you already feel very strong, that you can kind of connect with in a very strong, clear way. You can also use this as a way to cultivate a new quality. So say you can feel peace really easily, but you really want to feel worthiness, self-worth, or you want to really start to feel more inspired, or you want to start to feel more creative. Then you can also use, or strong, you can also use this process in order to connect and cultivate so that you can acquire a new frequency. So again, this is us learning how to really come into a frequency, an alignment to a frequency, and hold that frequency. And ultimately either be able to hold it while we're going through some pretty challenging times or windy times, or we're able to actually come back to it and come back to it quickly or quicker. Okay, so this is the process. The process is get clear on what it is that we're aligning to or wanting to cultivate. So I'll use the example as peace. So say I want to cultivate peace. I want to start to really align to peace, and I want my presence to become peace, because that's the whole point of this. We want to be able to go into such alignment with a quality, with a vibration, that like a frequency, that we then become it. We just vibrate it, and we can walk into a space and it can be felt. Not only is it our center point, we actually now are able to start to impact our environment as well, rather than always being in defense of trying to recover from our environment. This is how now we start to be able to really impact in a beautiful way, to start to impact higher frequencies out. And then it's up to, we're not forcing it, we're just allowing the presence to do the work, and who's ever open to receiving it will open to receive it or be blessed by it. But also that's how we're helping to really bring new consciousness and raise the frequency and support the healing of the planet and all beings. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get into clarity. What is it that I actually want to cultivate? And then I want to set an intention. My clear intention is I want to cultivate and come into a new alignment or an alignment with peace. Then I want to ask myself, how can I support myself to do this? And I almost want to approach it like this is going to be my purpose each day. My highest purpose each day is to really start to give energy to this and cultivate this. So if peace is my intention, then I want to ask, what can I do to support myself mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? So mentally could be, I might create an affirmation, I am peace, and I'm repeating that throughout the day. It could also be, I'm recognizing when my thoughts are not cultivating peacefulness, they're actually cultivating conflict, or they're cultivating pessimism, which is going to keep me definitely not in peace. So aware that I'm doing this, then I can start to negate that thought and replace it with a new one. I am peace. Or just being aware, not judging, being very gentle with self, and just starting to be aware. My thoughts are not cultivating peace. Okay, so I'm aware of that now. Now when I have those thoughts, I can start to bring it right back into what I'm cultivating. Physically and you might see some crossover with these two. So physically could be, I might want to create my environment or a space that is very peaceful, or a specific area or a specific room that when I walk into that, it's very peaceful. I might want to have some symbols or paintings or something that really invoke peace within me, so that when I feel like I need a reminder that I'm working on coming into peace, then I have that reminder and it's right there, and it's something I can actually physically feel. So it's something we want to start to invoke into our physical feeling, and it's something we might want to put into our environment to help support that. Even starting our day off, because the most important thing when we're coming into working on an alignment of holding a higher frequency or quality is being able to actually feel it, right? So feeling is the most powerful kind of part of when we're magnetizing or manifesting something. That's our signal. Our signal comes most strongly from the feeling. So it could be I start my day off and I feel peace, and I might think of a memory or a place that really cultivates that feeling for me, and I might want to just hold that for a minute or minimum 20 seconds or a couple minutes if possible. And I may even want to set my reminder to go off every couple hours throughout the day to come back into feeling that peace again. So again, if you're not a feeler, no worries. You're just creating an environment that brings that sense of peace. It could be like a color brings a sense of peace. Again, you're going to know for you what that feels like, what that means for you, depending on how you navigate through the world and kind of what your gifts and how you filter things. Okay, so that's the physical, and then the emotional would also be, and this is where you'll see some crossover, that emotional is going to be, again, feeling or noticing. When I go to a certain place, I notice I may not be able to feel peace, but I know I don't feel good. I know that I come home and I don't feel grounded, or I don't feel, I've lost kind of my sense of stability, or I feel really spacey, or I'm starting to feel really doubtful and insecure. So starting to be aware, like where, my intention is peace, starting to, again, without judging a person, a situation, ourselves, we're learning how to just start to be aware. At this time, is this cultivating and helping me and supporting me in bringing forth this quality that I'm seeking, this essence that I'm seeking? So emotionally, how do I feel when I'm having certain conversations? How do I feel when I'm watching certain shows or listening to certain music? Because everything is frequency, everything is vibration. So the more aware I become of the vibration I want to be, I'm going to start to become aware of what really knocks me off that, what really keeps me blocked from aligning to it, feeling it, and what is actually cultivating it. So some things or some places or some conversations, even some people might be like, I really feel peaceful from, going to that place or having that conversation with that person. So again, we're just starting to be aware. And at first, that's the biggest kind of experience, actually, is just really starting to be aware when we have our intention, how often throughout the day are we pulled out of that? And we might even find some days we're at the end of the day and we haven't even had it on our radar once. That's why, again, sometimes it's very helpful to just write it out or put something where we have this reminder of what we're wanting to really set, intend, and align with. And then spiritually, and this can be anything. I mean, this is, again, depending on you and depending on what resonates with you. It could be that you're doing a meditation for peace. It could be that you're lighting a candle each day with intention to align to your frequency that you've chosen, your intention. It could be that you're going in nature every day with intention to cultivate your quality. It could be that you're just taking 2 minutes a day, connecting to your breath. You're getting calm so you can have a little bit more awareness. Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be directly related to your intention. It's either going to be directly related to your intention, or it's going to help support and cultivate the intention that we want to really kind of nurture and come into. Part of our evolution, and this is including with our neurology, like our neurological system, our physiology. We're so used to feeling lower frequencies. We're so used to feeling fear. We're so used to feeling anger. We're so used to feeling sadness and grief and conflict. And there's still so much of that happening, on the planet, maybe even within our own selves and our own lives. So part of our, kind of cultivation, and part of our cultivation of actually coming into our sovereignty, aside from this awareness, is really starting to be aware of, when am I actually in alignment to, number one, my intention, and number two, when am I in alignment to my breath, And when am I in alignment to my sense of I'm choosing to navigate through this? And yes, there's a lot of conflict. And yes, there's a lot of, I'm used to going through a lot of um, challenges or conflicts in my life, and I can navigate that. What if I want to start to cultivate more peace or more harmony or more love within myself? Well, we have to generate and create new pathways literally in our physiology in order to do that. So I want to have that intention, but then I want to start to cultivate that in my body. So that again could be I'm setting my intention. I'm going to hold that feeling minimum 20 seconds and breathe. I'm going to breathe deeply as I hold this feeling of peace. And what that's doing is it's actually training my body and creating new pathways in my circuitry of my physiology so that it will get easier and easier to be able to hold that frequency. If you've been doing a lot of work for a long time and you find you're at a frustrating point where I'm doing all this and I'm still having a hard time holding love, or I'm having a hard time, I'm still getting hijacked, especially if you're empathic, like high, a high sensitive empath, you might find like, I don't know why I can't hold this frequency more easily or more kind of strongly or in a more grounded way. And oftentimes this is what's now needed, kind of it's learning how to be able to maintain a frequency at a high, at a higher note. In a sense, it's like somebody singing and we're used to singing middle C, and then all of a sudden we're now trying to sing a few octaves higher. We have to train ourselves in order to do that. And if we're used to also singing with, a group of people at the same note, and now they're still singing at the same note, but we're trying to start to sing at these higher octaves, it takes some practice and it takes some conditioning or some training for us in order to be able to hold that frequency, hold that note. So same thing. So qualities or vibrations are the same thing. And we're learning how to really cultivate it and almost like shift the signal, shift the shift the pathway or the current that we're navigating through. So being aware, what is my vibe right now? Am I vibing fear? Am I vibing anger? Am I just totally disconnected? I'm on autopilot and I don't even, I'm not even aware of anything about it. So it's just starting to kind of be aware of that, and then starting to be, and you're like, well, if I'm on autopilot, I'm not going to know I'm on autopilot. So it could be, again, reminding, what can I do to set up in my day something that can help me to come out of and disrupt these patterns of autopilot. There's reasons why we've set up these patterns. So now we're starting to, we want to start to feel safe enough and be able to be in our heart and open in our heart and start to relate to people and relate to life from this place now of love and of harmony. But there's a vulnerability that comes to that as well. There's a vulnerability to be able to navigate through this world with an open heart. And so this is what we're figuring out how to do. So having our center, cultivating that center, creating support for ourselves, an environment for ourselves, and taking some time, whatever that means for us. Sometimes that could be a few times a day, once a day, a couple times a week, whatever feels okay in your life or what resonates, and be able to come back and continuously tune back into self and say, what is my center? How am I doing here? What's pulling me out? How can I come back into my center? And sometimes that changes, sometimes that changes depending on how intense our days are, how intense whatever is showing up in our life at that current time. So as we do this, then we start to also become more aware. I can develop more tools and techniques for myself to help me to also know that once I know my center and I know kind of my tells with my center, what pulls me out, what helps me stay in, then no matter what's going on through life, I can use that as my rudder, and I have tools and techniques that can help me to, you'll develop them as you go, that to help me to keep coming back to that or to maintain that or to become even more steady and unshakable in that. And the more we do that, the more sovereign we are, which means that we're going to be able to be in our own steadiness. And we're also going to then be able to be a very strong steadiness for others. We'll be able to hold a heart-centered essence of whatever we're cultivating, which will be a higher frequency for somebody else, again, simply through our simply through our presence. And there's the win-win in that, because when we can hold that higher frequency, we're automatically protected. If we can get it to a point where we're in the presence of it, anything that's negative that's coming at us will be bounced off our auric field. It will be bounced off our energy field. So beautiful way to really cultivate our own center. So your takeaway is, do you know what your center is? And if you don't, what do you want your center to be? Tip is to maybe get clear on what personal values and principles are, maybe what non-negotiables you have, and where you are able to be flexible without losing your own kind of sense of self. And then, is there a center that you want to start to additionally cultivate? So there might be other qualities. You might feel like I got love down really good. Now I want to start to work on, love of life, or I want to start to work on prosperity. I want to start to work on something else. So again, it could be just, what's your own original center, and then what do you want to cultivate? And then start to support self in the actual process of cultivating that. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting too, when we really come into the presence of it, you might not even know, because it's so subtle. You will be given information back, though. The world will give you information back. So there's an example. I was in a yoga class once, and I was really working on cultivating peace. And I had been doing it for a while. I was pretty really focused with it and creating this cultivation of peace. And I was in a yoga class, and I remember somebody beside me. It was a more intense, vigorous yoga class. And I remember somebody saying to me after, who was practicing beside me, she's like, this was a really intense class. And she said, you did not lose your peace once throughout the whole practice. And it was interesting, because I didn't even recognize that I was just in my zone. But that's an example of, sometimes it's so subtle, you'll slide into it and you won't even know, but you will be given information back. So this process really works. It's just, it is a process. So invitation is, have fun with it, relax with it, be curious about it, and just kind of, discover interesting, fun things about your day, or about energies, or about places and conversations that just kind of really, again, just curiously, not in a judgmental way, invitation is, but just really starting to be aware, how is this making me feel in relation to my center? All right. Hope you have an amazing day, and may you stay centered and strong. Namaste.